Okay, the start of sourdough bread basics. My favorite recipe. My bowl, my scale, and I use grams. So make sure it's on the grams, it is, and clear the bowl because we don't care about the weight of the bowl. So we're using like warm water, and we need 75 grams. No laughing in the other room. Okay, 20, 25. And sometimes I go over a little bit, but don't stress over it. I'm at 67, 71, 72. And if I'm really concerned, it says 77. I'll take this little thing and suck some out. There, we're at 75. Okay, next thing is we take our bread flour. And we need 75 of it too, so I clear my unit again. Back down to 0. Little bread flour. It's 27. Flour's a little easier, but it's hard to take out, so. But I don't worry about a little extra flour. 52. 69, 74, there we go, 75. And it would probably, we might go up to, it went up to 77. So have a little extra. And then your sourdough start. That's fairly happy. You're supposed to use a tablespoon. This is how Patty measures a tablespoon. I stick my little spatula in there, stir it a little bit, eyeball it. A little bit more. But you could use an actual tablespoon. There you go. Then stir those guys together. I'm gonna go wipe my hand off. Get it all stirred, most of it anyhow. Okay. So now it looks like that. Get every little bit, not that you need it, but I do. There's a spatula over there. You can use like a tea towel, plastic covering. I have this silicone cover. Stick on my bowl and set it out for the night. And tomorrow morning we will resume. Okay, so it's the next morning and this is our thing. I set it on my scale. And I make sure it clears, but we're at grams. And well, actually, first so this is what it looks like. It's got bubbles. All right, so it's back on there. And make sure, clear it again. And I've got grams. So the first thing is I need water. And it calls for 450 grams, which is right around, not quite 3 cups. And I warm it up a little bit, and it's filtered water. So I guess I should look. This particular recipe, I guess, calls for 450. I go pretty fast until I get closer. And once again, if you go a little bit over, a little under, it shouldn't make that big of a difference. 415, 27, 30. And if I get really worried, I pull out my little eyedropper thing to finish. Okay, so we're at 439, and that might take a little bit longer. 445, 443. 450, 449. Okay, so it's at 449. Then I'm gonna just give that a good stir and get the stuff off the sides too. And let it. It's not gonna dissolve, but it's gonna kind of work it in there a little bit. You can see it from there. Okay, so then the next thing is the flour, and for this recipe, it calls for 700 grams of bread flour. So again, I need to clear the unit so that it's at 0, so that the only thing I'm worrying about is 700 grams of bread flour. So I don't know how many cups. A lot of recipes kind of give you an idea. 355, 503, 609. So I'm at 629, so I'll go a little bit slower. And once again, if it's a little over, it usually doesn't make a difference. And maybe a little over will make it a little less sticky, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if the humidity is high. A little bit more. We're at 6. Oh, give it a second to measure out. Nope, it's 700. So we're calling that good. So then all we have to do is kind of combine these, and it's going to be a rough, sticky looking dough, but that's the first step. Let me kind of show you what it is, and then I'll prepare the water, because then you put more water and salt. You don't put salt in this beginning step. I don't remember what the reasoning behind that is, but you don't. So it's going to be shaggy. That's what they say. It's going to be a shaggy dough, and try and get as much of that incorporated as possible. I have done it with my KitchenAid too, but I don't know, it almost seems like it's just easier to do it this way. And scrape the sides, get as much of that dough together. Okay, so I'm throwing things around. And that's the one weird thing about sourdough. You get all these little things and then they get stuck places and your husband wonders what all those little things are. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And then now I'm just going to cover it again. Sometimes I'll set it in my oven. I have a setting that calls for proofing. It doesn't really seem like it makes that big of a difference, but for anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, it just, when we get back to it next, it's going to have, they say it's not really doubled in size, but it does get bigger. Okay, so this is just going to sit over here. And in the meantime, let me start the microwave. I'm going to prepare the salt and water, and then because I like to do things differently, this is where I also incorporated oil. So I have my little container, and clear it again. So I'm heating up water because I think it's going to make my salt disintegrate better. It doesn't. I mean, there's still chunks of salt when I go to do it, but it does help. Okay, so I like to use oil, and I go anywhere between 5 and 10 grams of oil. Just kind of dump it in there. Sometimes it takes a while for the thing to register. I'm at 4, 8. We'll go with 8. So I'm going to need a total of 50 grams of the water and oil combined. So there's 8 grams. Now I've got my water that I've been kind of boiling in here. Once again, it's purified water. Okay, so we're at 8. And this one, I get kind of spooky when it gets close to the end. So I will get my dropper out probably. That's at 40. I guess a spoon could work too, just something that controls it going in there a little bit better. 48, 49. If I just use the water like it calls for, I could just scoop out any. Okay, so then the last part is a tablespoon of salt, and I use cayenne salt. So there's my tablespoon. As you can tell, I didn't level it, I just push it. So then I mix it together, and I let that set until we're ready for the next step, which will be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Sometimes it's been longer. It's never been shorter. So next step coming up later. Oh, crooked. Okay, so I did just wash my hands. You gotta take my word for it, Molly. Okay, so this has been about, I don't know, it's maybe even been over 4 hours. So this is what it looks like now. So then I'm gonna take this stuff here that my salt and oil and water, and just dump it in. And as you can see, not all of the salt dissolved. Maybe if I had used just plain salt as opposed to sea salt, I don't know. So then, this is the dirty part. You just take your hands that are clean, and the first time is the hardest. The next time that we do this, so I have to pull it up from the pan because it is kind of sticking at the bottom, and just work it, and you're just pulling it around, freeing it from the pot, and squishing it. So I usually go kind of just around the pot and maybe try and get some of that stuff. They also have these little plastic things. I think I threw it in your bag that can do that. So, all right, so that's the first. So it's pretty loosened from the thing, and it's kind of, and the oil is sort of worked in. It's sloppy. Then you cover it again, and we're gonna set the timer for 30 minutes, and we'll have 6 rounds of 30 minutes pulling. So it's 11:30, so I'll do 11:30, that was the first, 12, 12:31, 1:32, and 2:30. So, okay, I'll show you back in about 30 minutes. Okay, in 5 seconds, timer's going off. So that's been 30 minutes. So, wash hands. Da, 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 da. This is boring. Okay, so then this is what it looks like after 30 minutes. Once again, I'm just going to grab, pull once, twice, 3 times, 4, and usually I just kind of turn it over again. Okay, then cover it up, another 30 minutes, and on the next 30 minutes I'm going to add the stuff that I add, which is not part of any recipe, it's just what I decided to do. So 30 minutes. Okay, so this is the third pulling. That's what I call it. I don't know if it has a better name. And this is when I'm going to add stuff. So today I'm going to use a dried tomato garlic pesto mix from Tastefully Simple. I tried to get that bagel stuff, everything bagel at Hugo's, but they didn't have any. Okay, so I don't measure it. I just do this till I think, oh, that looks pretty good. So then I'm going to do my stretch and folds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Other recipe, and you can actually see that some of that water and oil is starting to get less. It's less as it was before. Okay, well, we'll be back in 30 minutes. Okay, this is the 4th time, and I'm gonna do one more. Sometimes I do it more than that. It just feels like whatever I feel like. Usually at least twice, though, just because then I feel like it gets a little bit throughout more. But once again, I'm just tossing a bunch of it on there. That's what our thing looks like. And doing basically 4 pulls. Another one. Another one. Another one. So I'll probably skip the 5th and 6th, the final one, but then I'll show you what I do after my final pull. Okay, so you get a break for an hour, even though you're not here. Okay, so we've done all the pulling, and so now we're gonna get ready to shape them. So the first thing we do is, so I usually put it on this thing, whatever it's called, and I'm sprinkling it with that rice flour. White or brown, doesn't really matter, but it's a lot better about making things not stick. And I'm also doing that in my little bowls that I'm gonna put them in. I know I gave you a big round one. I'm hoping I gave you enough, Molly, but you don't have to put them in these things. You can put, I wish I also had more in here, but I don't. Okay, I'm gonna fill that up. So I've got some stuff on there. I'm dumping this out onto the cutting board. There we go. Sometimes it's nicer if you have a little bit. I'm gonna have to fill that up for the next time, but you just I'm just kind of getting it there. And now I'm gonna cut it in 2 because the loaf that I'm using does 2. Or the recipe, which actually I think I'm gonna give you that recipe. So, and you're just gonna kind of shape them out and then let them, they're gonna rest for between 20 and 30 minutes again, and then we will put them in, shape them again, and put them in the things, and we'll move on. Alrighty, see you in 20. I forgot, when they're laying here, you want to cover them with like a tea towel. Okay, just like that. Okay, so most of our work is over with. After we're just gonna shape them, and then we're gonna let them rise again, and then we'll bake them in a few hours. Okay, so this is what they look like now. So to shape it, on a clean surface, since I have a narrow one, but it doesn't really matter. This is going to be my narrow one. So you're going to, and if it helps you to put stuff on your hands, because they are kind of sticky, but it comes off. You're just kind of pulling underneath and folding. You do that a few times. I don't really know for sure. I think that's where you get the holes in. Okay, so then I have this piece, and now it's got kind of a mush in the bottom, and you kind of want to, what is that word? I don't know what the word is. You want to kind of close that in a little bit. I'm putting stuff on my hand. So you want friction surface, so that's why I'm doing it on a different surface. And you just kind of spin it around, and since I'm going to make this one elongated, I just kind of pull on it a little bit. And then you look, and you're pretty much closed. It doesn't usually seem to make a big difference. It's not completely closed. So then now for the final rise, I'm going to put it on a towel. Cover it with a plastic bag. And I'm putting it in my oven. I don't know, you have a gas oven. I don't know if that would be an issue. So there's that one. Okay, so the second one will be in the round one. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of goobers on my hands, and then I'm just folding and tucking, folding and tucking, folding and tucking, and I don't know how many times. Okay, on a surface that's friction is hopefully helping it to seal up the little hole. And it's like, yep, popped it in there. I thought I had another towel out. Don't have another towel out. Cover it. And then, so at this point, if you wanted to bake them in the morning, you just stick them in the refrigerator like this, over, and then in the morning, you set your timer and do that. But I'm going to bake them this evening, so I'm going to put them, like I said, in the oven, and since we're having tacos for dinner tonight, it's not going to cause an issue because I don't need my oven for that. But I'll probably let them rise at least 4 hours. It's 3 now, so probably about 7 o'clock after I clean up dinner dishes, I'll do that. So we'll come back and I'll show you that process. Okay, so here is where, in my world, things get intense. I don't worry about the other parts, but this is the part that, for some reason, stresses me out. So they've risen. And I take things off and stick a piece of parchment paper. I try to reuse them a few times. It's kind of in the shape, and you know, oh shoot, well, I broke that piece. I probably didn't need to, but so this helps them fit in the pan. All right, here we go. It's gonna get crazy. I have my scorer. I think yours is green. I preheated my oven to 480 degrees, and I have 2 pans in there. So we're gonna start with the first one. Put my handy dandy gloves on there. Oh, and in my 480 degree oven, I have a little cake pan that is full of water. I have that on the bottom. It's gonna do steam. So first pot out, what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to lift the lid off. It should be hot. Hopefully you can see this. So I'm flipping that bread loaf out of there. Now if you put them in the refrigerator, it's going to be a little tenser, but you take your knife and you score it so this doesn't fall apart. Plop it in there. The lid on. Shove it in the oven and grab out the other one. This is my round loaf, so I put it in a Dutch oven. Now I even have more issues because I broke my little piece of whatever. If you put it in the refrigerator, they seem like they set up a little bit better so they don't get so soft so quickly. It's a little easier to work with, but I think they poof better. Okay, so I'm going to score it again. Maybe do a couple little guys here. Toss it in there without burning myself, which is good. and in the oven it goes. So, I'm now setting the oven for 20 minutes at 480 after the beeper goes off. I reduce the temperature to 450 and cook it another 10 minutes. And at that time, after the beeper goes off, I take the lids off and cook them for about another 8 minutes with the lids removed. And then I'll come back to show you that, what they look like. Just waiting on the timer. As you can tell that the lids have been removed. 8 more seconds. All right, so we shall remove them. Ooh, it's a little steamy in there. It's like a sauna. I don't know how to work my oven. Okay, so let's see what we got here. These are hot, so try not to touch them. Ta-da! Hope this helps.